I might call him a schmuck. I don't know what you call him.
I would call him a schmuck.
He dehumanized his fans,
Right.
the people who were there to hear him play music.
If you actually know the facts and you care about them, you're either an idiot or you're anti-Semitic. The word Palestine in and of itself is propaganda.
He wouldn't call them a terrorist group now. I see them more as a political party.
Hamas used them as human shields, a war crime.
Hamas didn't have to do October 7th. Let's start there. The Hamas didn't have to take hostages.
I think they even look less tired than I do.
Right, let's go to our hostage, the Israeli hostage. Let's go to that hostage.
That's
starving.
starvation.
Attorney Brian Silber, Attorney Lloyd Golburgh.
Welcome to Two Taps and Friends. Grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's dive into another episode of Two Taps and Friends.
Welcome back to Two Taps and Friends. I'm Daniel Rosenberg, the host of the show. Today I brought back my astute panel. We're going to talk more Israel. I got Brian Silber back, Attorney Brian Silber, Attorney Lloyd Golburgh, who's pretty much a regular on the show at this point, you know, but there's no two guys I'd rather have here talking Middle East issues. Welcome back, Brian.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Lloyd.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Let's just jump right into this, all right? Because it's just a morphing. Every day there's something new, right? Every day. Now Brian created a group text with all of us. He's just sending us the newest stuff. I'm like, oh my God, it just doesn't stop. It's all day.
That's right.
And so let's start off with what the biggest thing that was out right now, which is ridiculous because there's so many updates in the news about the military and about what's going on with the negotiations and all that. Coldplay is out in there, right? Like your buddy, right?
Yeah.
Coldplay, who, listen, I like their music. I always liked their music. You know, I was kind of waiting to see when they would chime in because you see these bands that I think for the most part are ignorant. You know, they don't pass the sniff test. I was just talking to you about this. Like, these people that are criticizing would not be sat on our jury panel, right, Brian?
Oh, come on.
The first question would be like, how do you feel about Israel? They'd be like, okay, stricken. I don't want it for cause. They wouldn't make it past cause.
Some people should stay in their lane.
I agree.
You know,
a lot of people.
everybody should stay in their lane.
Right.
But their lane is very narrow.
Right.
Okay.
I agree.
Stick to the music. Do not involve yourself in geopolitics that you absolutely have no clue what you're talking about.
Right.
And this, you know, what's a nice way to describe it? I might call him a schmuck. I don't know what you call him.
I would call him schmuck.
Chris
Yeah.
Well, I mean, listen.
He made himself look like a big-time schmuck.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
he showed, hey, everybody, whole world, everyone listening, I don't know anything, and here's a very passionate, strong opinion.
Right.
You know.
And what he did, is just for the viewers that don't know, is he brought up, there was some Israeli, guests in the crowd, and they made signs. These kids were super excited to see him. They made, where was it? Do we know where the concert was?
No.
I don't know, but they made signs. He brought him on stage because the signs were, I guess, so good and right, and he invited him up. And he does this at his concerts. I've been to his concerts where, you know, he brings people on. And for the most part, he's preaching love and all that kind of stuff. And he brought them on, and he asked them where they were from. And they said Israel, and the crowd went to booing. And I think he responded more to that than anything, saying, well, look, to defend him a little bit, I think he was trying to do the nicest he could do, but he gave away his prejudices and biases a little bit. And he said, well, he told, look, thank you for coming. We're glad to have you on here, but I'm going to treat everybody with kindness and treat you like human beings, regardless of where you came from, which was, talk about, listen, as much as we talk, I ass out a lot, right? And my wife's always like, that was an ass out. You should not, that was a major ass out,
Open
right?
mouth, insert foot,
Right,
and
then
choke.
right, and then he proceeds to go, well, since you're, and I also would like to invite people from Palestine on, and trying to do this thing, right? And again, this is the problem with this conflict, is they've equated the two sides as if it's just, you know, there's nothing deeper there. And the first thought is, what if you did that with any other group of people, right? Let's try it out, right?
I mean, imagine, like you said, welcome on stage, even though you're handicapped.
Right.
You know,
We're treating you as a human being, even
Right.
though you're black.
Right,
Yeah,
or you're in a
welcome
wheelchair.
here as a human being.
And we're going
and
to
that's
treat
not-
you as human, right?
Here's what.
But let's invite some white people on stage
Right,
too,
right.
just in case, you know. Let's hedge the or. Thank you for coming on. We understand you're gay. We're going to treat you as a human, even though you're a homosexual.
Right.
But let's bring some non-gay people on stage as
Here's
well.
the whole
what
thing.
happened.
This is the whole thing. As a premise of what he was saying, he dehumanized his fans,
Right.
the people who were there to hear him play music and buy his product and
Right.
spend money, and who probably, by the way, did spend a lot of money buying tickets.
Sure.
They would have come from Israel,
Maybe.
Sure.
right?
Yep.
Most likely, or
For
they
sure.
traveled. They were up late, certainly. And he totally dehumanized them based on their nationality.
Right.
And, coming from a musician, that was, a little shocking.
Well, there were two things there. One of them, and remind me because I'm going to say this part second, but the idea that you're from Israel and I want to invite people from Palestine. I want to get back to that word Palestine again because
Right.
it's irritating to me.
That irritated me too.
And I'll tell you why in a second. But as far as Chris Martin, I'm going to defend him here. Because I was invited to go to the Coldplay concert about a month ago here in South Florida. And of course, I heard rumors that he had made comments before that people interpreted as being, anti-Semitic and pro-Hamas. So I went and did the research because I didn't want to go to the concert. I'm like, I'm not giving this guy my money. I'm not going. Screw
Right.
that. I'm done with that.
It's very smart of you.
So I went and looked up online, and what I concluded was that he seems like to be a very loving guy.
Yeah.
And
agree
that
with that.
he really, his problem is he works too hard to try to be inclusive.
Right.
Right. And I don't mean that in a negative way that there are certain people he shouldn't include. I mean that he fumbles over himself.
Right.
And I think that's what happened. I think he was unprepared for that. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because I've seen that where he has been in other concerts very welcoming of Israelis and Jews.
Right.
So
I think it was a reflection of ignorance.
I think
It wasn't.
It is a
I don't
reflection of
know that
ignorance.
he was anti-Semitic.
I agree
I don't
with
even,
that.
I don't even know if I want to say that. It wasn't
I
a
agree.
hateful
Right,
thing that he
right,
said.
and that's what I
it was
mean.
so purely ignorant. It's just.
that's annoying too, and of course that's a big part of it. I think on one of our last panels I said if you actually know the facts and you care about them, you're either an idiot or you're anti-Semitic. So because to me that there's no in between if you know and care about the facts.
Right.
Right. So that's kind of the way that I felt about what he did, because even before that show I was already like, okay. And you're right, he probably doesn't know much, but his children are Jewish. His ex-wife is Jewish. His in-laws are Jewish. They may be super
By the way.
progressive and not Zionists, but still, I can't imagine that he doesn't seem to have a hateful.
Shows-
bone.
shows you
In
the
his
power
defense,
of
though, real quick, his
propaganda, by
defense,
the
it kind of like, he did kind of, he stays in his lane. He doesn't know much.
Right.
But go speak to what you're speaking
Well,
to,
it's
because that's
the power
the
of
biggest thing.
propaganda.
Yes.
Right. That's the
So
problem.
you've had
Correct.
a totally false narrative
Right.
promulgated for a few years now, bombed out on every social media platform. And what it does is, and we discussed this last time, it preys on and it infects the weak mind.
Right.
The people that don't, that where their strong suit is not the deciphering of true from false, right? It preys on the people maybe who aren't the question askers, the skeptics, right? And once that narrative, and you see, and by the way, they do this with bots, okay?
Big time. It's
You ever-
crazy.
you ever go
you
to
see
a
the
ro-
comments on our show? It's amazing. They're
Well,
bots.
by the
Half
way,
of
I
them are
do-
bots.
Apparently I'm being followed by somebody in Iran.
Well, and I do that too. You
So l'chaim to Iran, thank you.
somebody makes a comment, I will typically go and look and say, okay, is this a legitimate person or is this
Right,
a
right.
bot?
It's hard to
and then
tell.
you click on their profile and they have like 4 friends and
Yeah.
3 posts.
I'm going to tell you what it is.
and you know it's a bot.
Right.
I'm going to tell you what it is. You ever go to a restaurant that has great reviews, it's written up, it's very expensive, and you get there and it totally sucks?
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
Right, because it's fake hype,
Right.
right? So that's exactly what has happened on social media. And I'll tell you what I discovered early in the war that really put my brain onto it. So I really deep dived into the comments. So there'd be an article about something that happened, whatever, and you would see free Palestine, flags, the whole thing. And the comments are 2,000 deep, right? And if you take the time, this is what I noticed, and I knew they had to be bots. Different accounts with 0 prior posts that follow a lot of people but has very few or no followers, verbatim was making the same, specific comment.
Right.
Okay? Like, let's say, I don't know, I called you a blueberry because you're wearing a blue sweatshirt,
Right.
okay? Different people, even different sexes from different places, totally different photos, would be like, oh, blueberry, blueberry. And like, they'd be 250 comments apart. It's not like people are repeating the same thing
Right.
that they saw another person say. So it was obvious that this was computer generated. It wasn't authentic. But to the unscrupulous mind, to the guy that doesn't ask questions, the person that doesn't have, look, we're lawyers, we're trained to be skeptical, right?
Right.
To someone maybe who's a musician, a get along kind of guy, a love kind of guy.
Well,
right?
isn't that the purpose of propaganda, to manipulate the ignorant?
Yes.
So that brings me back to what he said, which is I want to invite people from Palestine. So there again, that is a propaganda. That the word Palestine in and of itself is propaganda.
Right.
Because Palestine is the region, and we covered this in the last episode on the map. Palestine is not a specific entity that has any kind of boundaries. Palestine is a region that includes Greater Israel, right?
Jordan, Syria.
Jordan, Transjordan, some part of Syria, right? And the Gaza Strip. And what is now referred to as the West Bank, we know as Judea and Samaria. That is all Palestine. You
It's
see?
also a word in English.
But the point is that
Yeah,
when,
exactly.
when
Let's not talk about
The-
that.
Right.
The British came up with it.
Yeah,
right,
exactly. There's no
but the
Arabic.
point is that because the propaganda is so good, and because the populace is so ignorant, automatically free Palestine to them, you know, they don't realize it's that entire region. They think there's Palestine and Israel, and there isn't. Israel is within Palestine.
But in all
That-
fairness,
so
He
that
gives
irritates
away his
me.
ignorance when he says that.
Exactly.
Right.
what you're
That's the point.
describing touches on the birth of this movement in the 60s with Yasser Arafat, which,
Right.
by the way, who was Egyptian.
Egyptian.
He was
Egyptian
Egyptian. He was
con
born in
artist.
Egypt. Total born in Egypt,
Right.
right? But today, you have to admit there is a group of people called Palestinians because that's how they identify.
Right.
Okay? They're a very new group, you
Right.
know, historically speaking. They haven't existed for even 100 years yet as a identifiable, we are Palestinians, okay?
Yeah, but that gives,
If
you just
went-
gave legitimacy to something that's not legitimate.
Yeah, because they're
No, no, no.
identifying for
Legit
purposes of
and
their
an
propaganda.
identifiable group are two different things, okay? The Nazis were not legitimate, but they certainly called themselves the Nazis.
Well, okay, so if you're saying that I can that if a group identifies as a pair of sunglasses and we're accepting that as a legitimate identification, then I agree with you.
I think you're conflating two issues. One is you have a bunch of human beings come together as a group. We are an identifiable group of people. We are Democrats, we are Republicans, we are whatever we are.
Okay, fair enough.
That's different than you have a legitimate thing for what you're proposing.
Rather than
you know?
saying that
I wouldn't
there
say
are,
the Ku Klux Klan is legitimate,
I
but
sup-
they certainly identify as the Ku Klux Klan.
Okay, I suppose you're right, because I suppose that Palestinian Jews, or what we were
Let me
known
tell you something.
as Palestinian Jews, will no longer identify as Palestinian Jews. They will just identify as Jews or Israelis. So then I think it's fair what you're saying, that Palestinians can identify as Palestinians, despite the fact that we know that that was born out of, you know, subjugation, right? But I don't think you can take it as far to say that they come from Palestine.
No, that's how they're trying to couch it. They're
Right,
trying to
no, no.
couch
And
it
let me,
that way,
and let me tell
right.
you something. I grew up with kids whose parents and grandparents, on their passport, it says either Jerusalem or Palestine,
Right,
And that's just, why? Because that's what the British called it.
right.
Okay, and before the British were the Ottomans didn't call it that.
Right.
Okay, when the Romans had taken it from us, they didn't call it that.
Right.
Okay,
That's right.
you know, I keep going back to the Bible, but not as a religious text, but as a
Right.
historical document.
Right.
Okay, if you look at what's written in the Bible as a historical reference, forget you think God, man, whatever.
Right.
Right.
Okay, it's a book that's been around. Okay. There's no mention of a Palestinian people. It's the land of the Hebrews, the land of the Israelites.
That's right.
That's us.
Right.
Who is Israel? It was Jacob.
Right.
God renamed Jacob Israel, and his descendants are called Israelites in the
Right.
Bible, right?
Right.
That's us. Okay? It doesn't matter you believe the Bible, you don't believe the Bible, but as a document that has been passed down generation to generation, you know, like the Constitution. We weren't around when the Constitution was written.
Right.
Or the Declaration of Independence. A copy has been reproduced in every generation. We know what it says, okay? And it reflects certain ideas and historical knowledge from a specific date and time,
Right.
okay?
So
And at a minimum, that's what the Bible does,
Right.
okay? You know,
Well, but you can even fast forward all the way to modern times. So in the 1920s, right, when this really, in the modern era, started to happen, right, it was still they were still called Palestinian Jews. Really, Palestinians were Jews. Jews were the Palestinians, right? But there were Palestinian Arabs, There were Palestinian Christians, right? So there were no Gazans necessarily, although there was Gaza. Gaza have been around, right? But so that's my point, is that they were that the Arabs also migrated, right, into what is now Greater Israel, right? And so did the Jews. The Jews came mostly from Russia
hold on.
and then from
You gotta
Europe.
also understand what is this area. Look at the map. I wish we had the map up. But
Right.
Israel, right on the coast of the Mediterranean, is the intersection. It's the Grand Central Station of Africa, the Middle East, and Europe.
Right.
Okay. And it was an area of tremendous trade for that region. It's where Africans, Europeans, and Middle Easterners, and even further Eastern Asia, came together, and it was an area of tremendous trade. Okay. And what happens? People came from all over the world, and some of them stayed. Some of them maybe had kids with the local people, right?
Right.
And that's why you have a tremendous mix. Okay, it's a tremendous mix in that area. But the indigenous people called Palestinians today, that's a novelty of the last less than 100 years.
Right.
Well,
Right.
and that's what I'm saying. It starts in the early 20s, when not only were Jews coming from Russia, right, and then ultimately Europe in the 40s. That migration started in what, 1890, between 1890 and
Yes,
and 2000 and 1922. 40 to 60,000 Jews came, but also the Arabs were coming out of the Hejaz. They were coming out of
the
the
Mizrahi
Arabian
Jews.
Peninsula,
Yeah.
and they also were coming to take advantage of, and join and participate in the building up of the land. So that's what I mean I'm okay with you saying that Palestinianism is an identity, but you can't automatically use the word Palestine
Representative of a place.
representative of a place. If you want to be accurate, at least for the purposes of 2025, you would have to say Gaza, the West Bank, and Israel.
Right.
Let me ask you a
Let's
question.
table that for 1 second, though.
that would be something that anybody that was objective
Right.
would at least be able to agree.
When you look at
with.
the history books and they talk about the Crusaders, it says they went to the Holy Land.
Right, exactly.
What's the Holy Land?
Right. Let's table that because we're going to get to that in a minute, but I want to move on to, not move on, I want to touch before we move on some of these celebrity making asses of themselves. Tucker Carlson, did you see what that guy came out and said this week?
No, there's
He literally verbatim, just to give away, and look, you can say if you like him or not, the guy's got a huge platform.
Right, he does.
Huge. I don't know why,
Yeah.
but he has a huge platform. He came out and he was in his little commentary how he talks. He said, Hamas, like if you can even call them a terrorist, I wouldn't even call them a terrorist. He wouldn't call them a terrorist group now. I see them more as a political party.
Interesting.
He literally
He has
said
previously
that
said on the record that they were a
before.
terrorist group.
No, the people are putting up flashes of thing, but the question is, why does this guy have this stance now? Is it really some like he's just evolved in his thinking, or
No,
is there
you
some
follow the
kind of
money.
tie to the money, right?
Follow the money always.
He's a shell. That's all he is.
But
Honestly,
it's so crazy to jump.
I
to
take
some-
Tucker Carlson and I wipe my ass with him.
I agree.
Okay?
I agree. But
You
a
know
lot
who
of
else I
people,
wipe my ass with?
listen to
Pierce-
that schmuck.
Pierce, what's
Pierce
his
Morgan,
name?
another one.
Right?
Yeah, the other one.
Look,
We talked
these
about
are
them
guys that are making a business
Right.
on the misery of warfare.
Right.
Okay? He's in it for him, all
Right.
right? And he's doing it as a contrarian.
Right.
And by the way, when he was on Fox News, that was always his move. It doesn't matter what the guest says. It doesn't matter what the person says. He's just going to say the opposite.
Pierce, you're talking about Pierce or
No,
Tucker?
Tucker
Yeah,
Carlson.
yeah, Tucker.
That's his
They were
shtick.
both on there, I think.
It's a shtick. That's
Yeah.
all it is.
Yeah.
It's his business, okay? And you know when it really clicked in my head the most? I saw him attend, it was some kind of campaign event that was on TV, okay, in the last election. And everyone there was in a business suit, except for him. You know how he was dressed? In his typical...
Duck head shirt.
yeah, the duck head shirt. What do you
Yeah.
call that? The plaid shirt.
Yeah,
he looked
yeah.
like
Right.
he was on a hunting
Looked
trip.
like a southern
And
guy
I
from,
realized,
like-
what's this schmuck dressed like this for? He's so like out of place. And it made sense to me. That's his brand.
Yeah, totally.
It's his brand.
Totally.
Okay.
But it's-
And he's selling a product. So and you know how you
But
know
he's
some,
authority to people. That's the problem.
again it goes to people who
Agreed.
don't know how to analyze, don't know how to
Agreed.
think,
Agreed.
people who lack knowledge. If you're picking this up for the first time and the guy is preying on your patriotic emotions, maybe on your emotions about dissatisfaction about how the country's been run the last 5 years, okay? There are people with legitimate questions, and a manipulator, a guy like a Pierce, who's trying to make a buck for himself is going to push your buttons and then fill in the gap with his nonsense.
Right.
That's how it works.
Right.
Okay. In every ounce of propaganda, there's a drop of truth as a hook. There has to be the hook.
Right.
Right. So he hooks them with the patriotism. He hooks them with the dissatisfaction.
America first.
Right. Which
Right.
people have legitimate questions.
Agreed.
I'm not discounting that.
Agreed.
But then he takes that to manipulate the weak mind.
I know, and that's
Okay.
what's so frustrating. But let's talk about Trump's extended. Do you want to add on there anything?
No, I just wanted to wrap up a comment, make a comment wrapping up what we talked about before. Just because Palestinianism didn't begin until the Sir Arafat era in the early 60s doesn't mean that Arab nationalism didn't begin before that. Because just as Zionism, was on a roll in the 20s, Arab nationalism began to sprout at that time. So it's not like all of a sudden there was Arab nationalism as the result of, the creation of the Palestinian
It
Liberation
just
Organization.
morphed. It morphed to this. But let's talk about the new Trump has he has a new offer. Well, what's going on? Fill everybody in on where we are with that.
Look,
First of all, let's put up, guys. Can you put up the map of Gaza?
You
for
mean
me?
Trump gave another red line? Is that what?
Yeah. So this is a map of Gaza.
maybe we could blow it up a little bit bigger.
I think they have to take
That's
up
as
the
big
whole
as it gets?
screen. Yeah,
Okay.
they can see it pretty clearly.
Well, the people at home can see.
So now the Israeli armed forces are. The threat is to go into Gaza City, which they've begun already,
We're
right?
already in Gaza City.
I understand 50% of it is already under Israeli control.
Right.
So here's the whole thing.
Right.
How is it we were able to destroy Hezbollah, which was way superior in military ability over Hamas, right? And we destroyed them in a matter of weeks.
Right.
Okay. The reason is there weren't any hostages in southern Lebanon.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We're tippy-toeing around the issue in Gaza. Another issue, Gaza is full of civilians, okay? Southern Lebanon is much less populated, okay? I saw a video this morning, the Air Force took out a Hamas headquarters in a 5-6-story apartment building, and the blast of the missile was like nothing. It almost looked like a dud. I thought maybe it had malfunctioned.
Right.
But it wasn't. It was one of these nominal blast missiles to minimize damage to the surrounding areas and really just take out the one, pinprick of a target, right?
Right.
So anyway, you asked me what's happening. What's happening is President Trump has extended an offer to Hamas that Israel has accepted. Basically, if they return our hostages, hey guys, return the hostages. If that's what you want to end the war, you got to return the hostages.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Here's the
okay?
specific proposal. 48 hostages and bodies released immediately.
Immediately.
In return, Israel has to release 2,500 to 3,000 Palestinian terrorists, who they call hostages, which is ridiculous, including those convicted of murder, to be freed from Israeli jails. Israel pauses Chariots of Gideon B, which is the operation to take Gaza. Trump himself steps in to personally lead to end the war. While talks go on, no fighting.
They're never going to take it.
And there's commentary about Israel saying, sure.
Was there,
Sure.
there wasn't anything in there about Hamas
Hamas
disarming and
disarming.
getting on a plane to Qatar off to the wild blue yonder?
That's a red line that's not going to get crossed by Israel. Israel is not backing off on that.
It's never going to happen. There's
Right.
never going to be a final deal. The only thing that may happen is, remember, we've discussed this last time. What are the hostages? Hamas took them really for two reasons. One, to trigger Israel into a massive response that they could exploit on the PR front.
Right.
Right? They didn't calculate how it would be done. They thought it would just be some kind of crazy, maniacal, as opposed to a very calculated, intelligent military operation, which it turned out to be. And two, and this is the essence of it, their currency for time.
Yep.
And that's why they never wanted to give them all at once or make a deal. What they wanted is drips and drabs, okay? But here's the thing with Trump. He's got 3.5 years left in his presidency. This is not going to be something that drags on and defines his presidency. He wants to end it while he's still president.
Right.
Okay? And it's going to end one of two ways. Either Hamas is going to capitulate, which they're not, okay? Or Israel's going to give up on its hostages, or accept the fact that it's going to have a neighbor next to it that just wants to annihilate it at every opportunity. Again, something it won't accept.
Right.
Okay? So here we are. So what's going to end up happening is, and by the way, the hostages have a lifespan. okay? They can only survive so long in these conditions. And eventually, the decision has to be, are we gonna let them die in captivity, or are we gonna take a chance that maybe we can at least get some of them through combat?
Right.
Okay, and we're kind of at that point now, because you have the convergence of time running out, lifespan running out, and it's gonna end only one way, okay? So that's why you keep seeing these pushes. Oh, now's another Gideon operation number 2. We had a Gideon 1, okay? It's an inching by inching by inching, because the hostages, so long as there's living hostages, they're not just gonna go in and, destroy everything. Until it gets to the point where that's the rational move to do. And as we get closer, that's really what's happening, because time is running out.
Right.
Okay, so Gaza City, it's in the north. It's in the top half of the Gaza Strip. The reason why it's a target now is there were hostages held there, and Hamas used them as human shields, a war crime. Where are you, world? Where are you? Why aren't you taking to the streets to scream and yell about this tremendous war crime? Tell me.
Isn't that the
why
simple,
are you going for us?
Isn't that, we have all these discussions and we all, we sit there and we like defend and we try to give facts, but really the simple irony isn't, why aren't these world leaders like, Macron in France and what's his name in Spain and
Macron.
and Carney in Canada and Sturmer in Great Britain, why aren't they standing up and saying, Hamas, release the hostages? Why isn't that happening every single day? Like, that's the part I just don't understand.
Well, if they do it in conjunction with Israel needs to stop the genocide.
But if you care about Palestinian people, the civilians, right? The innocents in Gaza, then you would follow Israel's lead and you would release the hostages, the war would end. I don't know.
Macron doesn't give two shits about anything in that area, except for his politics.
Of course, none of them do, but that's the point.
Listen, they're politicians, okay? And here's the thing, and it ties in, by the way, to the PR war, okay?
Because they have very large Muslim populations that are
with the
growing
wind.
exponentially, so they have to, placate that
voting.
Right,
that
and
bloc.
then
That's
when
right.
this war ultimately ends and some of the politicians turn over and people are on to the next thing, whatever it is, okay, they're going to realize Israel's still around. Israel's a real country with a lot of business to do, a lot of technology to sell.
10 million people. I don't know where they think they're
Right.
going.
There's a lot of business to be had, and things will eventually return, okay? We offer a lot. We have a lot. People want to do business with us, whether they openly admit it or not, okay? Things will resume eventually, okay? But right now, it's very loud. It's very hot. And politicians, what are they really? It's a popularity contest,
Right.
okay?
Right.
And Netanyahu, and he's not the first person to have this revelation. It's not a big revelation, but he's always mentioning, we in Israel, we sit and we laugh to ourselves because we hear what they say on television, and then we know what's being said privately.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, this, that, the other. Meanwhile, make sure you kill everybody. That's what's really happening.
Right. So moving. So the history of Gaza. Let's just briefly remind people. Lloyd, you want to touch on that a little bit?
The history of
Gaza. The history of Gaza. Like people are thinking, that Gaza was Israel just is wants it. They want to occupy it. They want to take it, and they don't realize that nobody wanted it.
Well,
it was Egypt. It was never. Give the history.
Well,
Both you guys. Whoever wants to take it.
I can tell you that Jews have lived in Gaza forever.
Right.
Right. And in what was it, 2005, 2006, in order to achieve peace with the Palestinians and the Yasser Arafats of the world, Israel gave Gaza to
Ariel
Right,
Sharon.
but before that, how did Israel even get Gaza? Where is it from? Who had it?
So
What
let's
was
talk
it?
about that.
Right.
This is important. Okay. Let me ask you a
We have to
question.
go back to 1948.
If I break into your house in the middle of the night with a gun, okay, and I threaten you, and maybe even I kill a couple of your family members,
Right.
and you kill me in return, are you the bad guy or am I the bad guy?
Right.
Okay.
Perspective,
Well, that's
right?
another cognitive dissonance I see.
Because that's
you
what
have
happened.
Well, you have a lot of people that ignore the October 7th, right? And then so it's just the Jews are indiscriminately killing people and for no reason. And then now they actually, I see so many posts where people actually say, well, since October 7th, the Israelis are bombing the Arabs. And I'm like, did you just hear yourself? It's almost like October 7th was something that is acceptable and okay. They even admit, well, since October 7th, you know, this is what the Israelis have been doing. Well, that's right, because of what you did on October 7th.
Right.
And so that's, you know, that's part of the frustration of all of this. It's almost like either it didn't happen, or if it did happen, it was, you know, benign and acceptable.
Douglas Murray summed it up amazingly.
I love that
He's
guy.
the best, right?
Very intelligent guy.
They kept, Piers Morgan put the question to him, like, well, a lot of people say Netanyahu needs to, like, negotiate, and he's not willing to negotiate. And he goes, again, you keep mentioning the leader of a free democracy. Like we expect them to, like, it's him that's holding it up.
Right.
Like, Hamas didn't have to do October 7th. Let's start there. The Hamas didn't have to take hostages.
I don't
Hamas
like,
doesn't have to
that
keep
bothers me when
holding
I hear
hostages,
Doug
right?
Murray say that. That bothers me because it's like, that's irrelevant. That they
but-
broke the ceasefire and they didn't have to attack. Okay, that's in the past, but
Well,
what
you-
matters is what to do about it now.
Yeah, but-
And the easy answer is release the hostages and lay down your weapons. All Palestinians get to live, and you leave Israel alone.
Easy
It's that
for
simple.
you, but for them, the game's over for them.
Well,
when you
because
do
it's
that.
not about Gaza. It's
You
not
asked-
about the land.
You
It's
asked
not about the
his-
people.
You asked about the history of Gaza.
Right.
Okay. The reason why I brought up the example of the burglar.
Sure.
Who's the bad guy? I break in your house. I try to kill you. I try to kill your family. You kill me. Who's the bad guy? It's me, right? It's not you.
The public now would ask,
you're the
well, why
victim.
did they break in your house? Was
Well,
there
but-
a reason they
Right.
should have
And you
broken in
put
your
on-
house?
I'm glad
Right?
you didn't give the
That's
stock
what
answer. I'm
public-
glad you
right,
didn't give the
right,
stock answer,
right,
which
right.
is, of course, the burglar is the bad guy, because
Right.
that's not conventional thinking anymore. That apparently we're old school. where
Did you
the-
share your wealth?
You
Was
know-
that, why would
Well,
that
this is
person
part
need
of the
money?
problem because
Right.
that's how
did you
that's
leave
how
your door
Gaza
unlocked, or did
that's
you
how-
leave it locked?
that-
Because if you left it locked, you know,
Right.
That's how Gaza became an issue. Okay, Gaza was Egypt.
Right,
Okay,
right.
It was a land called Egypt.
Right.
Okay, it was the territory of Egypt. And what happened in 1967? Egypt attacked Israel to destroy Israel,
Right.
along with a bunch of other Arab
One of a
countries.
few times, but
Okay,
yeah.
one of a few times.
Right.
Okay. And in true fashion, and we've discussed, what's behind all this many
right?
times.
They lost
Right,
that
right.
war.
They lost, and they lost miserably.
Israel took that
And one of
territory,
the
like in any other war you win.
One of the territories they lost was the Gaza Strip,
That's right.
okay? Because they came into our house, and they tried to kill all of us.
Right.
Right.
And we said, no, thank you, I don't want to die.
Right.
Thanks for the memories. But instead, we're going to defend ourselves.
Right.
And the consequence was, at the end of the combat, when the battle lines were frozen at the time of ceasefire, we had pushed them out of Gaza because they were attacking us. This was a war.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Now,
Same thing in the West Bank. I mean, it's the same. It's the same
fast
thing in the
forward
West
to,
Bank.
to
West Bank was Jordan.
2005. Fast forward to 2005. Around that time, Bill Clinton was one of the first idea to give land for peace. Give the Arabs land and we get peace, okay? Really started with Jimmy Carter and giving back the Sinai, right?
Right.
The whole idea was give land and they'll give us peace,
Right.
okay? So Ariel Sharon, very famous general, saved the country in the Yom Kippur War. He's like the Patton of the Israeli army. Made some mistakes later on in Lebanon, but we don't have to discuss that right now.
Right.
He made a big mistake, and in 2005, he said, okay, we're going to do this land for peace thing, but with no deal, no contract, no nothing. We totally disengaged from Gaza. In fact, there were Jewish residences, there were businesses, there were hotels.
Graves.
The
They
government
dug up
went
the
in.
graves.
Right. The government went in, uprooted people from their homes and from their businesses and said, it's time to go. The army,
Jews.
right. The Israeli army went in and removed Jews, and we totally abandoned the entire Gaza Strip to the Palestinian Authority.
And left
what
the
happened?
infrastructure in place for them to thrive on their
There's more.
own.
There's more. The Palestinian Authority, remember, everyone says, oh, the Palestinians, they're not all the same either. Okay, they have their own little subgroups.
Sure.
The West Bank right now is controlled by something called the Palestinian Authority. Mahmoud Abbas is their leader. Okay, he was the successor to Yasser Arafat. Okay, what happened in Gaza? So 2005, we leave. Okay, and then the Palestinian Authority takes over, and they become the governing authority. Very quickly, within a matter of a couple years, Hamas wages war on the Palestinian Authority, and there's a civil war in Gaza.
Threw them off roofs.
Brutal.
Right.
They slaughtered the shit out of each other.
Right.
Worse than anything you can imagine.
Well,
Again, no one bats an eye. Okay.
Typical in these
Of course.
Islamism countries,
And
Islamist countries.
Hamas pushed out the Palestinian Authority and took over. And they became the governing body. So in the Gaza Strip, you had Hamas in charge, and in the West Bank, you had the Palestinian Authority in charge. And what Hamas did was, from that moment, they began preparing for the end game, the destruction, complete destruction of Israel, okay? And the whole world, as dumb as they were, kept pouring in money, and we were dumb too, by the way, because we let this happen.
Right.
And you look in the tunnels, you'll see the concrete fixtures are stamped with the names of Israeli concrete companies, because we were sending aid to help them develop their nation, okay? All the missiles that they launched on us, the rockets, they were made from piping that was intended to be used for their water systems, okay? And what they did for a solid 20 years, okay, was prepare for war.
Right.
And they built an underground tunnel network that would rival any subway system in the West, okay? Yeah. They developed, and by the way, as an objective student of military history, I have to say, they were very creative, and they were very successful in the weaponry that they made, considering the constraints they were operating under. They developed missiles, they reinvented, anti-tank weapons, limpet mines, they even made homemade machine guns. There's a lot of, as an objective student of military history, they created a lot with very little, okay? But the point is, the war for them was all about this, the end game, to destroy Israel, okay? But they did it from a time, what enabled this is we pulled out, okay? So to recap, it was Egypt. Egypt attacked us when the battle lines at the time of ceasefire were drawn, okay, where the fighting ended. It included Gaza being in Israel, okay? In 2005, we withdrew, and eventually Hamas took over. Fast forward to this war, here we are.
And bottom line, Egypt doesn't want Gaza. They don't want them back.
More than that, they don't want the Palestinians that are in Gaza.
They don't want them, that's why they have a biggest fortified.
well-
Their wall is more impressive than anything I've ever seen. You can't get over it. It reminds me of that World War Z movie where they built the wall.
Right,
And that's
right.
what it reminds me of. They don't
Right.
want, because they know they don't
Right.
want they don't want Islamism in their country.
Right.
We're talking about Islamism.
They have two walls.
Well, I
Egypt.
think we
they
should-
have,
we
they
should
have
distinguish,
they have like a.
Well, they particularly don't
a
want
buffer.
Palestinians
The
there.
Palestinian, I think they showed in, there was a stat that showed in, I don't know, was it Holland or
Sweden,
Belgium?
I think it was Sweden.
One of these countries, they took, they showed the amount of refugees that came in that were Palestinians.
Yeah.
They showed the crime rate and
Yeah.
how, what their records became,
Right.
their kids and how
Right.
many records it became.
Right.
And the point is like,
Right, and then whoever the foreign minister was at the time of Sweden, in retrospect, said it was a bad idea to allow them in the country in the first place.
You know who else said
when
that?
the culture is wrapped
You know who else said that?
Who?
King Hussein of Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what King Hussein of Jordan did? You ever wonder how did Palestinians end up in Lebanon? Why is Hezbollah in Lebanon, right? Well, the answer is they're originally in Jordan, okay? And what happened was Yasser Arafat hijacked an airplane with the PLO, and he landed, I believe it was a TWA jet actually, landed it in Jordan, okay?
Right.
And they actually were trying to overthrow the king there and take over the country,
Right.
okay? And he, like us, said, you know what, thanks for the memories, but no thanks, I want to live, okay? But he totally brutalized them, King Hussein. He slaughtered it's called Black September, look it up.
Right.
Don't believe Brian, go look it up, Black September, go read a book.
Right.
Okay, not on TikTok, read a real book.
Right,
Okay.
that's right.
Black September, he slaughtered the hell out of them, okay? And the remnants, the survivors of that Black September, because it happened in September, they fled to different places, one of which being Lebanon. They took a foothold in Lebanon, and of course, everywhere they go turns to complete shit. Lebanon, one time before their presence, was a beautiful place, very metropolitan.
Yeah, of
Beirut
course.
was known for being a wonderful city. And then, of course, it all went to hell, and Hezbollah became a thing, and here we
well,
are.
Islamism, it's Islamism. That's ingrained in their
Jihadism.
culture, the jihadism, but it's an Islamism form, is what it is. And these countries don't want it. Bahrain doesn't want it.
Right. The
UAE
Emirates don't want
doesn't
them.
want it.
Right.
Saudi Arabia now, they got
Right.
rid of the Wahhabi
Right.
strain they had there, a bad one, right?
Right.
They don't want
Well,
it
that's kinda
anymore.
where it came from.
And they're seeing it. Egypt definitely doesn't want it, right? Al-Sisi.
Egypt is mixed.
But Al-Sisi doesn't want it, you know? He doesn't want it. You got the, you know, it's hard. The population is diverse, but that's the biggest issue. But
Yeah.
I want to talk the next couple of minutes on some of the propaganda photos, because there were some photos that we didn't get to pull up
Right.
that we could pull up now. First of all, we're talking about the starvation. So I think, let's start off with, guys, can you put up the baby with his brother next to it this time? Because we all know the New York Times picture of this baby that has cerebral palsy and amongst other conditions. Turns out Israel has treated him many, many times, this baby, right? So I don't know the child's name. But let's take a look at this is what the point you wanted to make, Lloyd. Let's
Right,
take
so-
a look at, go ahead, make the point.
Yeah,
Lloyd.
so remember, what was it, 50 million we talked about on the front page of the New York Times?
Right.
That's the viewership, yes.
Right, had the cropped version of this photo that didn't include the toddler. So,
The kid
of
with
course,
the shirt that says smile.
of course, so what you saw, what the New York Times, sent out through the airwaves to 50 million people was a photograph of just mom and the infant, and try to convince everybody that child was starving as the result of,
Right.
Israel's actions. And then, of course, then they were called on it and they had to retract the story. And we already talked about how they,
Right.
they sent their retraction on their online public relations platform
80,000
that
viewer.
had, 80,000 people. But that's the real photograph.
Right. And by the way, this is horrible, the poor child.
Of course.
But we're
Come
not
on.
belittling this, but we're making the point.
No,
that
I
you
think
can
we've-
paint the picture the way you want to paint this picture,
And
right?
make someone see it. So if you crop out, or you AI out the toddler, then of course you have a photograph that is extremely effective in convincing people that this is a suffering child and it's Israel's
It is
fault.
a suffering child.
It is a
very
suffering
sad.
And
child.
that's,
it's-
and
it's
of course,
whose fault
and
is
by
it,
the way,
right?
we said that a million times.
Right.
Let's not. None of us ever intend to minimize the suffering of any,
Right. Right.
innocent people.
Right.
But it's unfair to blame that all on Israel. And
Right.
and then when you look at the pictures like that, where it's like I made this point last time, like if there's this famine, right? Why do you have to manufacture photographs? You would think there would be enough. And people have said to me, well, there's no journalists in Gaza and the Israelis don't let journalists in. Everyone has an iPhone. Come on, give me a break.
There's more journalists in Gaza.
Hold
than
on,
there-
but this photo came out?
Journalists, and that's a loose term now.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, isn't that the point? So yes, the
Right.
bottom line is that people, it's easy to fool them, and unfortunately, we have an evil, complicit media that spreads this information. And you look at that
terrible.
picture. And
There's
like,
a
oh my
lot of
God,
people getting a lot rich.
Why
on
is
this
only the
misery.
infant starving?
Right, right. Like Brian said, just the children. You're only starving the
Right,
children.
yeah.
Right.
But let's move to the next photo. Brian brought this up. It's actually a still shot of the video. Guys, can you put up the video of the panning out with the salt water? Let's start with the one where, they were trying to show journalists starving, drinking the salt water. So this.
Oh, this is a personal
This is
favorite.
a still shot, right? But explain how they panned. We're going to go to the next photo when they panned by accident.
okay.
But go ahead.
So this came out not
Not
too
yet.
long
Go back
ago.
to the other one real quick then.
Oh, they gave
Yeah.
it away. Okay.
Okay.
So if you notice, they're wearing flak vests that say press.
Right.
Okay.
That's all it takes to be a journalist, by the way, in Gaza.
Right.
Just so you know, there's no other prerequisite. Okay, but go ahead.
So what they're doing in this image, you can even see in the caption, journalists in Gaza drink salt water to help them continue working amid deepening humanitarian crisis
Right,
because of
right.
famine, right? Because
Right.
they're saying there's famine, there's no food. What's salt? You need electrolytes, right? Okay, so that's what they're, we're starving, we're so hungry, we have no access to food, so we're going to survive by salting
Including
our water.
those very healthy-looking
Okay.
journalists.
Right, now, forget the fact you're right, that's a very good point.
Wow.
They do not look to me like they're starving. They look well-nourished, they look just normal to me.
Well-groomed.
Right, groomed.
Right.
Hair, look at that guy's fade on the side of his head.
Yeah,
The
my
other-
goodness.
I mean, it's kind of
His
a
beard
nice
looks
haircut,
better than
actually.
mine.
Right.
Well, listen, it's important even in a genocide to have a good close crop.
You go
Gotta
look.
look good in genocide.
You go look at some infantry that have been living in the field for a little while. They do not look like that.
Right,
okay?
right, exactly.
They stink like hell. Their beards are like this, and
There's
they're
no
completely a
dust
mess.
on any of them in this war
Right.
zone, by the way.
Very clean clothing,
Right.
very clean bodies.
Right.
Again, ask questions, be a skeptic. Okay,
Right.
but never mind all that.
So it panned.
Let's go to the next picture
next
because
picture real quick.
what happens is there she is.
Poor thing.
Poor
We're not meaning
thing.
to make fun of anybody that's overweight.
We
We're
can
not-
make fun of
it's
her.
not
It's
the
okay.
point.
Fat
of-
shaming
she's a
her.
liar.
No, it's
Okay.
we're not fat shaming her. We're simply pointing out the hypocrisy.
No, we're shaming her for her lack of character. It's not about her.
Well,
body.
right, exactly.
Right.
Okay. The issue is this: they were using this image to show how much we're starving, but the camera made a mistake. And if you could play the video, I don't know if you have it.
I don't have we can't play the video right
Find
now.
it online. You can go
Right.
look this up. Okay. Don't believe Brian again. Go do
Right.
your own homework.
Right,
All
right.
right. The camera, the Al Jazeera camera, for a split second, zoomed out too much.
And
okay.
caught her.
And it caught her big fat belly. Okay.
He's just going no
And as
holds
soon
barred.
as-
not
Brian's
fat
going
shaming.
no
I'm not
holds
fat-
barred.
I'm not
I don't
fat shaming
care.
her.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't
Let's be
care. You
clear.
know why? You don't get to cry and hide when you're a scumbag.
Right,
All
right.
right. So the camera quickly panned back because it was not consistent with the message of starvation
Yeah.
that you'd have this very portly fat woman crying,
Overweight, but go ahead.
fat woman crying about starvation.
Right.
Okay, it's
Just look at the image. Does this, if I showed you this image, would you say starvation? Let's just do that on that test alone, right?
Of course not.
I mean,
And let's contrast it. Let's go to the next image.
I think they even look less tired than I do.
Right, let's go to our hostage, the Israeli hostage. Let's go to that hostage. Let's
that's
starving,
starvation.
right?
That's
Do you see
starvation.
that? Is there a little bit of a difference?
And I'll point out, this is
Point-
my
point
other,
out this
this is my
image.
other, photo.
Right.
Look at the arm holding out. That's a captor's arm.
Right.
It's too bad it's a little blurry here because it's blown up so much. But again, do your own research. Find this online. Go look for yourself.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
the
you can-
captor's arm looks totally normal. It's nourished. It actually looks even a little bit muscular to me, compared obviously to our hostage, who moments before, by the way, when you watch the video, was digging his own grave.
Right.
Okay, look at his ribs. Look at his gaunt face. Look how his rib cage indents in. There's not even enough fat to make a straight line. Look at his
Right.
waist. See how it goes in like that?
Right.
Look at his arms and his shoulders. He looks like he is coming from
Looks
Auschwitz.
like Auschwitz.
Yeah.
Literally looks like Auschwitz.
Meanwhile, look at the arm and the hand reaching out to him. Totally normal.
Right.
Okay.
Completely nourished.
So, by the way, go read up on psychological warfare. Okay. Go read up on the concepts of propaganda. One of the main things in propaganda and in psy-war is to accuse the enemy of the thing that you're doing. Okay? If you're
Projection.
attacking their civilians, you say, oh, you're attacking my civilians. Okay? If you're starving their people, you accuse them of starvation. Okay? And when you have a trained mind, once you've studied this and taken the time to deep dive into principles of propaganda, principles of psychological warfare, which, by the way, every major military has psy-war divisions. Okay?
You can start at Albert Stryker. That's where you can start. And Joseph
Once
Goebbels,
you've
those are
seen
the
it
ones.
and you know what to look for, it's going to poke you in the eye, just like this, okay? Just like these images we looked at. It's deny and make counter accusations,
Right.
right?
Right. Right. So,
Absolutely.
do you want to add on anything? Because
Yeah,
we're out of
I
time
made a point.
almost on this
Yeah,
episode.
real quick. I made just a practical point. When we were on before you got here, and before we got on camera, there was a rally in pro-Zionist Israel nationalist, Britain, Great Britain, a rally in London on Saturday, and there were 70,000 people there. It was beautiful, like Israeli flags and British, the Union Jack, I guess. And it was of course, when there's rallies that are pro-Israel or pro-Zionist rallies, they're peaceful, they're singing.
Right.
And then it was interesting because there were so many people. I was surprised myself that there were 70,000 people came out, right, the quiet majority. And then you had your usual pro-Palestinian crowd, right? But because there were so many pro-Israeli in the crowd, the Palestinian people were dwarfed. So maybe there was a couple of hundred pro-Palestinians there, of course, screaming, yelling, violent, spitting.
Right. Doing their thing.
Faces covered and calling the 70,000 the Nazis.
Let me tell you
Right?
something.
So that's what I mean. From a practical perspective, it's mind-boggling that the ones that are afraid to show their faces, that are literally harassing, intimidating, following, abusing people in these crowds, are calling the peaceful, loving, singing about, peace and a homeland, are the Nazis. And and of course the public eats it up. Like, yeah, they're the Nazis. And you sit here and you go, what happened to people?
So
And when they're not paid actors, the numbers are skewed
Right.
That was
towards
the one
Israel.
I was telling you about that. There was one
But
on a
it's not
beach. There
paid
was
actors.
right. There was a pro.
It wasn't
Zionist,
scheduled,
there was a-
Lloyd. They got to schedule it to get
Well, this
paid.
is what happened. So
Right.
there was one in Australia, on a beach in Australia, there was a rally.
Right.
And the same thing, thousands of pro-Israel people
I-
showed up, and there were like 15 or 20 pro-Palestinians, and that's the first thing that came to mind. I'm like, okay, so this one doesn't have the paid group there.
Right.
And same thing, that little tiny group screaming and yelling, violent, was calling the peaceful protesters, Nazis.
I really believe the good, decent folk of this country, of the United States at least. I don't know other countries. I'm not from other countries. I'm 100% American.
Right.
Okay? Red, white, and blue to the core.
Right.
Okay? I really do believe the good, decent people of America
Know the difference?
who are not ignorant, and I don't mean they need to know everything about the Middle East, about Israel. I don't know about other countries
Sure.
necessarily,
Sure.
okay? But they see right when they see right, and they see wrong when they see wrong, and they know evil when they see it.
Right.
And we have so
Raping
many
and
right.
beheading and kidnapping is not resistance. I don't
We
care what
have
you say.
so many supporters who are quiet supporters, because they're silenced, because we live in a cancel culture.
Right.
Okay? We have friends that would never dare come on the show,
Right?
okay, and say what I am saying.
Exactly.
Okay? You got to have a little bit of a warrior mentality.
Right.
Okay? But that's okay. Not everybody's got to be like that.
Right.
All right? And I'm thankful for the people that are silent supporters. Keep it up.
Right.
You don't need to fly the banner. You don't need to take the flak. We're happy to do it.
And we
Yeah.
appreciate
Okay.
your DMs, by
We'll
the way.
take the comments.
Before we
Yeah.
finish today, I brought something for you guys because I love
Good.
you. Here are dog tags, IDF dog
Oh,
tags.
thank you, brother.
I wear mine every
you.
day. So inscripted on your dog tags, it says in Hebrew that our hearts are captive in Gaza. And if you want to support the families of the hostages, you can find freedomtags.org. Bring them home now. I believe .org or .com. It's not hard to find them. A very small donation will get you a dog tag. You don't need to wear it. Throw it in the drawer.
I'll wear it.
But I will tell you, with this war, I believe that the IDF dog tag has become the new Magen David, the new Jewish star.
Right?
Okay, remember, where did that really come from? It was a long time ago, but after the Holocaust, a lot of people started wearing Jewish stars, right? Because the Nazis made it something bad, we made it something good. And this is in Israel, the IDF dog
I think
tag.
it came before
you
the
can see.
Nazis. Didn't the Arabs in the 20s in
Well,
Iraq make us wear
Well,
the
that's a
Jewish-
whole
That's
nother
a whole
discussion.
another episode.
Right.
You'll see it's perforated in the middle. God forbid a soldier is a casualty. The commander breaks off a piece and he keeps a piece, and the other part stays with the soldier for identification purposes. In
Right,
the United
right.
States, we carry, the Army has 2 dog tags.
Right.
One that the commander would
And
take.
one stays with the body.
Correct. But anyway, this is the official IDF, dog tag.
I appreciate
I
it.
encourage everyone who wants to support, go get one. The money goes to the hostage families.
Perfect. So that's a good spot for us to end today. We're going to have this panel on plenty because there's plenty of action, plenty of morphing information out there. Thank you for coming on, Brian. Thank
Thank
you
you,
for
my
coming
brothers.
on,
Welcome.
Lloyd. Thank you
See
to all
you
the
again.
viewers and listeners. Thank you to all the viewers and listeners for watching Two Taps and Friends. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Like I say, when you like and subscribe to the channel, it gives us more outreach. We're able to bring guests like we have on today and bring more information to you. So please follow us. You can follow us on YouTube. We're on iHeartRadio. We're everywhere. Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're everywhere. So also we have Two Taps and Friends swag linked at the bottom. If you want to buy Two Taps and Friends swag, you heard Brian plug the tags. You can please go support the IDF if you are a supporter. Thank you so much. Thank you all for listening. Love you all. See you next time. Goodbye. Cut.